Batman issue 130, Chip Zdarsky writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So the last issue of this was, like, it had good parts, it had some really well done parts, some really nice art. The story's been kind of doing some ballsy things that every time I think maybe I don't like this, then the next issue kind of wins me over. And then the first time that wasn't true was the Gotham's under siege again, because we've done that so many times recently by various things. Right. So the last issue ended with Batman stranded in space, the Watchtower's been destroyed, no ships seemingly, and the first half of this Batman issue is just how he gets back to Earth, right? And
it's Gravity Batman edition.
It's Gravity with Batman. Here's the thing. I was so conflicted reading this first half of the issue, because I think it looks great, the art's phenomenal, I think it's fairly well told. I kind of like the sort of the how like bombastically cinematic it all is, because it is very much like Gravity but with Batman. But there is just something just at its core that's just a bit silly about the idea that Batman's batsuit can withstand re-entry. That just annoyed me.
Feels like it was probably over 10 years ago now. The guy did the space fall, right? Where he took the balloon all the way up to the upper atmosphere. And then he fell out. And he was in a fully pressurized suit and he still lost consciousness. And he fell for 30 seconds unassisted. It was very scary. Thought we were going to see something bad. And I understand that Batman always has a plan, whatever, but yeah. The Batsuit's not this fully pressurized thing, and it's also, he's running low on oxygen. They set that up even before he enters the atmosphere. So it was even a bridge too far, and then he never loses consciousness, and he uses the ribs in the cowl and the cape to assist him on the way down, so he even does it without a parachute. And it was just a little bit too much.
I mean, the visual's great, obviously, with hitting the cape out and he's coming down for his landing and all the rest of it. The whole thing looks great. The whole sequence from start to finish is very exhilarating as far as storytelling goes. It's just that the core concept of it's just a bit too far for a character who's supposed to still be human.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I really thought before he hit the atmosphere that there was going to be, a Green Lantern or someone was going to be there to bail him out.
Yeah, Green Lantern, Martian, someone that we hadn't seen yet, because we know Superman was dealing with the robot, right? Why am I blanking on the name? It's the name of the art. Failsafe. There we go. So we know that. So yeah, I was expecting maybe Wonder Woman, someone that we hadn't seen yet, to come in at the last minute.
Yeah, just really surprising. That it's just clearly Zdarsky doesn't mind doing these over the top things with Batman, and don't get me wrong, I get what he's doing here. He lands in the snow near the fortress, which I guess was kind of planned because he was aiming for it, and he just stands up and he's like, "All right, time to get to work." It's the idea that again from orbit.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is that it should have been this thing where somebody finds him.
Yeah.
Again, that's taxing. Even on a superhero level, him doing all of this stuff again. I think just as a regular human.
I do think some people will have that reaction. It's it's a superhero comic, whatever, and I get that, but I think there's lines. I think there's some limits where.
Yeah. Because even if let's say this is Hal and not Bruce, and he's missing his ring and he gets his ring on at the last second. Then I could, Green Lantern-y stuff. I could accept that he can get up, dust himself off. But
that's a magic force field, though. You have to accept that I can just do things like that.
Right, that's what I mean. Batman doesn't have a magic force field here. It's literally his bat suit. The magic force field is plot armor, I guess.
Which, don't get me wrong, there are materials that won't burn up on re-entry. I know there was a big deal a long time ago about watches that were designed to survive re-entry. And what's the point? You're going to burn up into a million pieces.
It's more to do with the forces of it, right? Because when you think about how a mechanical watch works,
yes,
if it gets just out of alignment, that's what it's more about than I think burning up, right? And it's just cool to wear something from space. My ring is a tungsten ring. It's the same metal they use in the space shuttle, because it's not highly conductive and it's the melting point's high, whatever. It's just cool. So I get wearing a watch like that. But yeah, just the regular bat suit being airtight and again, it's it's a little bit too much, but the back half I really liked because of what Zdarsky's setting up. I think of how they have to take down Failsafe.
All what you said about the suit there, like, yeah, see if he'd like got into a pod that was floating from the watchtower and it had like a space bat suit in it, I would have been okay, fine, I'll roll with it.
Right.
This is a suit designed for it. Yeah.
It's just what he was wearing.
Yeah, it's his regular bat suit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's again. That's where
it's not airtight. He's got like he's wearing gloves that he just.
How many times do we see him minus the gloves and the cowl?
Yeah,
just walking around in basically the bat pajamas.
He probably should have frozen to death before he even got to.
There's that, and again, the gravity of re-entry, like the way that they have to design like spaceships and rockets and capsules and stuff to deal with the re-entry. Like you saw it even in Gravity, like we brought up at the beginning. It's a lot. Like coming down out of space is a huge. It's a lot of energy being expelled, and for just a regular human in a even batsuit or not, he should have been liquefied. But again, comics, whatever. It was just you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but this was a little bit too much.
Yeah, I thought either someone was going to bail him out, or maybe he was going to like find like something to go inside for re-entry. Some sort of metal enclosure, maybe part of a ship, part of something. Once he'd aimed everything in the right way, okay, time to duck in because I need metal around me to protect me or whatever. But whatever.
Right.
So yeah, obviously he goes to the fortress, and Failsafe's on his way. Which again, really great panels of Failsafe walking in the snow towards the fortress. You're getting that that oncoming threat. This is very Terminator-esque. And actually, there's a moment here that I really like. So Superman goes out in like a battle suit to fight Failsafe this time to hopefully hold his own.
And yeah, because he's still not fully recovered from the kryptonite wound.
Yeah. Even without that though, I think it's just to protect him from further kryptonite. It's to shield him from it. But obviously, Failsafe's got some trick moves up his sleeve. He's a secret nerve pinch that'll make him heat vision inside his helmet, and obviously.
So at first, I thought they did. I've seen this in other like classic comics where they play with the idea that Bruce and Clark look very much the same. So I thought maybe this was Batman coming out in a Kryptonian suit to kind of give time, against Failsafe. But then with the kryptonite started to affect Superman again, I was like, oh, okay, that's not what they're going with.
Yeah.
It actually is Superman.
There was actually kind of a nice moment with Bruce and Tim, where Bruce is thinking about this nightmare of all his Bat family dying, but he's like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. And he's like, look, Failsafe's coming for me. He's designed to kill Batman or defeat Batman, but he doesn't stand a chance against Batman and Robin. So it's like a nice team-up moment. Obviously, it was a really natural way to get that phrase into the dialogue. So they run out as a dynamic duo and try to fight Failsafe. Batman's whole plan involves putting some nanites into a hole that he made in the previous fight.
So yeah, because what they basically have to do is introduce compassion into Failsafe, because that's the difference between Bruce as this machine, right, as the Bat machine, the Bat God, whatever it is. It's the knowing what's right and what's wrong, and feeling for those that are doing wrong, right? So, but it can't be like a virus, right? Because failsafe systems will shut that down. So it basically has to be like this delayed thing. So I like that whole part. I like that, this was Frankenstein's monster, and Batman designed it a little bit too nice that they have to come up with this Hail Mary.
Yeah, it has to basically be something that will just feel like it's still part of the system, but like we'll slowly introduce the idea that, compassion, like you say, and that sort of thing. So the big ending is that Failsafe still wants to shoot Batman with the fancy beam gun, which, as we see, is actually a teleporting gun when we see this at the end. But he shoots Batman in the snow. And the fact that he teleports them, and even, it's red instead of blue, but there's a very Dr. Manhattan vibe with Rorschach here, because Tim's on his knees looking at just this red puff of smoke coming from the snow, and it made me think of the blue, residue.
When he obliterates them. Yeah.
It made me think of that a lot. So he thinks he's just watched Batman die, and Failsafe's like, Batman eliminated, and just flies off. Job done. The happy days. But in the last page, we see that Batman's been teleported to Crime Alley, where his parents died, and he's lying in the rain. And I have to say, whatever you want to say about this development, that page is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, why would Failsafe teleport him to there, or is this a Bruce thing? That's where I got a little bit lost. Was this part of Bruce's plan? Was to get shot and get teleported to Crime Alley to make it look like he's been taken care of, or what? Yeah,
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, part of me thinks Failsafe did this intentionally because of the compassion,
mm-hmm.
and the idea that Batman is eliminated is more like less literal and more like figurative. Where okay, Batman's eliminated and he's going back to when he was just Bruce Wayne, and the last time he was really just Bruce Wayne was in the alleyway before his parents got shot. You know, that's when he changed. You know, in essence. So maybe that's what the symbolism means. But like without more, I can't really say. I'm just sort of
because that's where I kind of got lost. I was like, okay, he's in Crime Alley. I get that, but was this part of Bruce's plan? You know, was this because I didn't think that the compassion had taken hold just yet? You know,
now I don't actually think it had consciously. I'm wondering if subconsciously it did though.
Right.
Which is why Failsafe thinks he's maybe just murdered them, but instead he's actually teleported
in Crime Alley.
Yeah.
Right. Which puts Bruce back in Gotham, where now he can.
Or it could be less that it's Bruce's plan currently, but more so that when the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh built Failsafe, he put in this contingency at the time.
Right. That's what I'm thinking, because it returns him back to point one, like you thought. But
yeah,
Zur-En-Arrh, in order to survive, takes him back to where he was born. You know, now that puts him back in Gotham, and now Failsafe is, you know. I don't even say ego because he's a robot, but he has that swagger that he's won. So now he's off balance.
Worth mentioning, this is billed as the finale to the arc. So this is, you know, we're going into a new arc with this cliffhanger, which is, you know, which is fun. Like, you know, I think obviously there may be a lot to do with it in the next arc, with the city being occupied by Failsafe, and like maybe Batman has to win the city back. I kind of hope not, because I think what's refreshing, at least about this issue and the last issue, is that it barely dealt with the idea that Gotham was under siege.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we need is another story about Gotham under siege for a while.
Yeah. And in my head, once Bruce has been eliminated, Failsafe goes back to being, you know, dormant, right? Because it's done its job.
I don't know, because I could see it. Yeah. I could see it being programmed to just continue being the new Batman, effectively.
Yeah, well, it's given us a lot to think about, right? Like, so, props to Zdarsky for that. I just wish it was a little bit more concise.
I think it's really well told. I think it's just occasionally he likes to use a concept or an idea that I don't like, and that's basically the only real issue I have with it. Which is going a bit too far with the gravity thing, even though I thought it all looked tremendous and was very fun to read. Or the siege stuff. Like there's just ideas sprinkled in that I don't like, but fundamentally some of the character beats, like, you know, he's no match for Batman and Robin. Bruce saying he'll be okay as he's saying no, let me get shot, you know, in the snow. That's a touching moment. The last page is gorgeous. Jimenez's art throughout is beautiful. Like, this last page is, you'll get the rain coming down, but there's the spots of red in the waters it's hitting around Batman. Really, really nice. All the stuff in space at the start. You know, if you're doing gravity in a comic book, right, where you've got someone, in this case, it's Batman's using his grapple gun to like sort of propel him from one thing to the next. Like, all of that, it has to be done completely visually, and then like, obviously the burning up and re-entry of literally like with the cape out, and you've got the flames going around the cape. Like, it is a fantastic visual. Like, I do want to like critique it, which, by the way, like he never mentions how he's covering his eyes. Like, I guess there's lenses over the eyes that can withstand the heat.
Yeah.
But whatever. He mentions covering his mouth with his underpants, his trunks.
Which he laughed about, you know, always giving Clark trouble about the briefs.
Yeah.
But now he says that he has a point.
Because he says his oxygen mask won't withstand the re-entry heat, so he puts his trunks over his face to cover them. Which, you know, fine.
Yeah.
But the visuals are all gorgeous, like absolutely stunning for that first half and then the ending. So
yeah. I would love for Jimenez to do a silent issue one time. I think that would be really good, right in that wheelhouse. But yeah, no, Jimenez is great.
Yep, no, wonderful. Did you read the backup?
I did. So it's the finale. It's called I Am a Gun, and Joker is gonna. It starts with the Joker trying to make a getaway, because the Zur-En-Arrh Batman takes a step towards him, and Joker's like, "You're as crazy as a soup sandwich," and so Zur-En-Arrh just lets Joker have it. Like he is not holding back. But then it gets into this like metaphysical breakdown where Bruce is on as Batman is like almost like on a psychiatrist bed, um, talking to Zur-En-Arrh in his head, and he's like, "You're only supposed to defend me from psychological attacks." And Zur-En-Arrh points out to Bruce is like, "The Joker is a psychological attack. That's every time you fight, he's in your head, and that's the danger of Joker. He needs to be put out because him existing is always going to cause you problems." Um, and as this is going on, Batman is holding Joker out of a window. And it gets to this, you turn to the page, and it gets to this really cool where the Zur-En-Arrh Batman is holding Bruce, but there's like blood pouring out of Zur-En-Arrh's face, as he's like, telling Bruce that killing the Joker saves people. Where it's Bruce questions, so where does that end? And he goes, yeah, when you kill them all, when you've taken them out. So just this idea that Zur-En-Arrh is kind of the same as Failsafe in that he's not going to stop until the job's done, because that's why Zur-En-Arrh exists. He is that drive to keep Batman going. And Joker is trying to talk himself out of this, and Bruce sees his dad's face in the Joker, and that's when it almost snaps him out. My iPad wants to go. So he hears a "What about me?" and in his head there's Joker, but it's him from the Killing Joke before he's Joker. So he's still John like Joker, but he's not as bright and sunny. That that there's something similar in Joker there, but it's almost flipped, and that he doesn't know what's happening. Is that something has always been broken, and that makes Batman feel pity for Joker. And he's like, well, if you kill everyone, who's going to save me? And the Joker in this part starts crying, and then Martha Wayne shows up and tells him that it's okay, you're broken, but my son will fix you. That's what Batman does, And he goes, I don't know how. And his mom tells him, you're my son. You're your father's son. You're not a killer. Your father was a doctor. You save people. You're going to help him. And, you're Bruce Wayne. You're not this. And she goes and pulls the cover off of the Zur-En-Arrh in Bruce's bed, and there's nothing there. There's just a smile. There's nothing under the cowl. It's there. So it's a pretty fun, like, little, in Bruce's head on how he's all dealing with this. And she tells him, you're not hollow. This is just hollow anger. Save him, save everyone, and save yourself. So Batman has just thrown Joker out of the window, but the in his head version runs back over to the window, fires the grapple gun, and saves Joker. And it's very reminiscent of The Dark Knight, to where he, Joker's hanging there upside down. All these Joker cards start flowing underneath, and Bruce realizes how dangerous he is. So he goes back to reprogram to get Zur-En-Arrh in check, and it's also what preempts Failsafe, because he says here, he's not a gun. He's the safety on the gun, right? He's a mechanism to keep things safe, and he, that he has to make sure that the Zur-En-Arrh protocol shares Batman's lines and has fail-safes and barriers. So he goes back into that chamber. Robin shows up, reminds him that simply existing, that, he has people to look out for, and that he needs light. He can't just be dark. So Bruce goes to put on a new shirt, and it's got the yellow, right, around the bat symbol. And Robin's like, oh, I like that. He's like, yeah, I saw something similar, but he couldn't get out of his head, and he's talking about on Zur-En-Arrh. He lies and says that it's, it's to draw the enemy fire to the, to this piece of armor, but it's actually the reminder that you need to have light in the darkness, and that there's something lurking behind the bat, and then it just ends with Zur-En-Arrh. Really good story, really good supplement to the whole failsafe thing, because it really gets into what makes Batman different, right? Is that he knows his line, he knows where he has to stop, and it answers that question: why doesn't he just kill the Joker? It's because he doesn't feel that the Joker is the real person, that there's someone in there that he'll eventually be able to reach. And that's something that we've tried on so many times with the way that Zdarsky and the artist Romero, the way that they get at it with this mental battle in Bruce's head, really, really like it. And Romero's art looks just enough like the Silver Age it really makes the Zur-En-Arrh pop with the Joker, because it's all this bright pop art looking stuff that he has going on. So, and I wasn't even annoyed when the Waynes shows up, when at least Martha shows up, right? Because these are all, things going on in Bruce's head. So of course his parents are going to try to reach out, because they're the reasons why he does all this. Also helped that we didn't have to see a broken string of pearls, so I admire the restraint there. So, but yeah, I enjoyed this more than the main issue.
Okay,
so,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, what were you rating Batman then?
So I will rate the first part. I'll give that a 7, and then I'll give this an 8. So I'll give the whole issue a 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'll say 7 as well, just because, like, I wish it could be higher. There's just a couple of things that just are a little too silly to buy into, but I do think it was all told very well and drawn very well. So, don't make no mistake about what I'm saying.